Hello and welcome to Nobody's Left Behind. I am Kat and I'm going to be talking about toxic relationships, and I felt really inclined to talk about this because I feel like, also the audio, I hope it's okay, like my speakers be booming, bro, but anyways, I wanted to talk about this because it's been something that has been just on my mind, and why not? Nothing better than just like pull into a parking lot and talk about it. But I struggled with a toxic relationship, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Just getting into it is our toxic relationships, and I feel like it's been a journey. And just as a background, I was involved in a very extremely toxic relationship with the father of my kids. And it started even prior to us having kids. It started when we were in high school. And it started getting toxic when I was about 17 years old. And then it lasted until basically now. And I'm 26 years old. And I don't want you listening to this if you just chose to look up like toxic relationships and you're like, oh my gosh, this girl is barely making something of herself 9 years later. That's not what it is. I feel like it was a really on and off journey for me, and I feel like it's only now that I have my head on right about it. And obviously it's really touchy and it's really, harder when you have kids involved, and you can't just cut them out and like block them, which I've done and he's done, and we just went months and years without talking, and it doesn't feel good. But I feel like now I feel better to talk about it, and I have a better head on. So basically, I remember he really started to get controlling and manipulative and would isolate me from my friends and family. And I just remember feeling like I had no one. I didn't have anything if I didn't have him. And I would get so much like backlash from my friends and family about this. Like, I remember my own family, they'd be like, why don't you just move on? Why don't you just move forward from this breakup? If you are not involved in a toxic relationship, you will not understand what it feels like. And even like for me, seeing others who go through this, you cannot do anything but watch, in my opinion. Like, if someone's in a toxic relationship, they're going to do what they want to do, and they're going to do exactly that, even if it's not for the best of them, and even if you have good intentions for them. So I remember I'm not going to get into the weeds of things, but I just remember I burned every bridge that I had, and I just let the light lead my way. That's how bad it got. And I just remember not caring. I didn't care if I went to jail. I didn't care. I didn't care the friendships that I was losing. I didn't care about friendships that I had that were really rock solid. I didn't care. I didn't care about family. If I lost family, he had me turn against my family, and still to this day, but I just remember like the only comparison that I've realized I've been watching myself in the viewfinder this whole entire time, but I just remember it's honestly a really scary feeling when you're in a toxic relationship. And if you're looking up this video and how to get out of a toxic relationship, and I remember I used to literally look up these videos myself, and I just remember being like, no one understands. No one understands exactly what I'm going through. But I can guarantee you, even though it's not the same situation that I've been in, if you're in it, I can understand to a good degree, because I've been in those shoes. I've been exactly where you are, and you have no friends, no family, only this one person that you feel like that you will let them control you because you think this is love. When I can tell you right now that is not love. Being in a toxic relationship, I think that it's purely out of infatuation, and you are manipulated into thinking that this is your one and only relationship. And I really can only compare it to, from what I've read, is like an addiction. Like, it felt like I was stuck in the cycle. I forgot what the cycle is of abusive relationship, but you know, you're good and then you're on rocks, right? You feel like you're walking on eggshells, trying to look over your shoulder to see, you don't want to do anything wrong to piss off this person, and you don't want to say anything wrong to make them break up with you or to make them hurt you. You just want things to be okay. And then the incident blows over, right? Like, an incident happens, and not blows over, it happens. And it's bad. The emotional, the verbal, your actions are almost manic. You know, you're willing to do anything to keep them. And then on top of that, it can be abusive. It really can. I feel like a lot of the time, sometimes toxic relationships will bring you so out of character. And unfortunately, people do suffer from abuse in this kind of cycle, physical abuse. And I want to make sure that this is talked about, that emotional and verbal. Just because it's not physical does not mean that it's not abuse. Okay, it can be emotionally abusive, and it can be verbally abusive. Just to get that away. Like, well, he doesn't hit me. Doesn't matter. If he's emotionally and verbally abusing you, same thing. Same thing. You know, and sometimes, you know, before I would get so bad, I was like, hit me. Dude, like, literally hit me, because words are worse right now. The words hit so much harder. Then that's exactly how I felt. I was like, just hit me instead, because the words were so scarring. Even till now, I can remember, and that was years ago, like almost 8 years ago. But yeah, I just remember, like, and after the blow up happens, you reconcile, right? And then after reconciling, which is like mending your relationship and choosing to stay together and move forward, that's reconciliation. And then it's the honeymoon. I remember always getting stuck in between the reconciliation phase and then the honeymoon phase. Like, that part is addicting. And I have talked to many therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists, and they can agree to the same thing. Being addicted to a person is real, especially in a case like this. And if you are in this case, it's okay. What you're going through is not okay, but it will be fixed. You will get to that point. Even though you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't get out of this, you will. But I was so addicted, and I was so stuck in the honeymoon and reconciliation phase, especially when things get sexual. That is, in my opinion, even worse, because the makeup sex, it's like you're okay again because of that strong physical, sexual. But after talking to therapists and going through extensive therapy, and, you know, it's a real thing to be addicted to a person. It is so real. And I remember just being so stuck in that phase. And I thought that I was never going to get out of it. Granted, it took a couple of years, and having kids involved, it is so messy. But I can really honestly say that right now, I finally feel clarity. And I do regret having to go no contact, but he did do something to me in front of our children, and so that's where I drew the line, and that's where I really put my foot down for my kids, because at that point I'd realized that he cared so little about me and my kids that he was willing to in front of our kids. And so I was done. I was fed up, and I was like, that's how little you care about your children to do that to me. And I was so lost, and I was like, hit me behind closed doors, just not in front of our kids. Like, that's how blinded I was. But I want to assure you that if you're watching this and you looked up this video and being, how do I get out of a toxic relationship? You are taking the right step forward. I will assure you that. And I want to say I'm proud of you and I congratulate you, because I remember just looking up video after video, how to get out of a breakup, how to get out of a toxic relationship, how to break the toxic cycle. It takes a lot. I will tell you that right now, but you have to put your foot down. You have to stay within your boundaries and your standards. When you are so far deep into a toxic relationship, unfortunately, your self-worth, your self-meaning, your self-respect plummets, nearly does not exist, because of how much you are manipulated into thinking that I will do whatever it takes to keep him, to keep her. But you identifying that you are in a toxic relationship is, in my opinion, the first step. Because I was in denial for so long until it got so bad. And I want to tell you now that if he disrespects you in front of friends, family, controls you, controls what you wear, controls what you do, who you hang around, who you talk to, like, he didn't like my friends that I had known since I was 10 years old. And those people were my safety net. Can you imagine just like how much they isolate you into thinking like you have nobody around you anymore and you are willing to burn every bridge, right? It hurts. And I know that you feel like you're stuck. And I know, like, before, I remember being so depressed. I would see my doctors. I did programs. Like, I remember my mom was like the person holding my hand through the entire way. And she would literally tell me one day at a time, and literally take it one day at a time. But I do know that when I was going through that, my mind just was not quiet. I remember just thinking, what is he doing? Who is he talking to? What person could he be texting? Is he cheating on me? Is he going to text me and pretend like everything's okay like we always do? Are we going to forgive each other like we always do? I remember my mind was just so not quiet because of that literally I couldn't even go an hour. I couldn't even go 30 minutes, 15. I could not go that amount of time without getting an itch to speak to him, to find out what he's doing. Like, it was literally so bad. And all these videos that I have watched about this, I feel like sounds like such an understatement, but I feel like those who speak on it have already kind of went through the thick of it, and I feel like that's me right now. And I know, like, I remember before when I was on the other end watching these kinds of videos, I was like, I just want to be in that space already. I just want to be in that place that I'm finally done and over him. Because I'm going to tell you now, you are tricked into believing that this is the best it's going to get. You are settling because you are manipulated into thinking that he is the only person in your life, the only man you will ever find. Well, when he's good to me, it's good. But when it's bad, it's bad. A person who loves you will never disrupt your peace. When somebody loves you, it's for you. It's for the both of you, not just for himself, for yourself. That's love. Versus infatuation, it's more of like, what can I get out of this? What is it for me? What am I going to get from this? Versus love, it's like, what can we do for each other? And I know that you think that he is all you have, but believe me, if you're young, like, if I could turn back to young me and just realize how much of a life you have ahead of you, I didn't care about college. I didn't care about my career. Oh my gosh, like, I didn't care about a single thing except for him. Don't ever let that be your situation, and just know that there's so much coming for you, and there is a good man out there for you. Don't jump into anything too quickly, because of course you want to heal first, but I can assure you right now that life is going to get better. Time will heal you. And I want to caution you, like, do not text him, block him. Don't do the whole blocking and unblocking thing. You have got to block him and tune him out. A lot of people that I see, they're like, well, I'm going to keep him unblocked so that way he can see how well I'm doing. I'm sorry to break it to you. He is not looking at your shit. And if he is, he's being toxic because he wants to reel his way back in to your life because he knows he can. Versus you moving forward and keeping him blocked, staying no contact. Celebrate every month. Celebrate every month that you don't talk to him. Celebrate every week that you don't talk to him. Every day that you don't talk to him. Celebrate the fact that it's been the whole entire day and you didn't text him or you didn't feel the need to talk to him. Celebrate that. Those are small wins, but they are still wins at the end of the day, especially when it comes to toxic relationships. And even though it's kind of like, oh, don't applaud a fish for swimming, but at the same time, pat yourself on the back. Give yourself that credit. Be proud of yourself, because it's not easy going through a toxic relationship and finally breaking that cycle. And at least if you really think about it, if you do not have kids with this person, thank the Lord you do not have kids with this person. Because can you imagine what a child can go through witnessing that, going through that, especially getting to the age where they can start piecing things together, right? A child will not make it better. It won't. It won't change him. It won't make him a better man, even though you hope and wish. And I feel like when I was in this state where I felt stuck, I remember just thinking, he's a good person. He's a good person, but there's nothing to prove of that. I remember making a pros and cons list. The pros were like 1, maybe 0. And the cons were just, 2 pages, 3 pages long. If you gain nothing from a situation like that, there is no reason for you to stay. There just is no reason for you. What, so you can feel good? You can feel good doing a lot of other things. You can find quick fixes, but you have to focus on you and your mental health. And I realized so far into it, which I wish that I saw it sooner for what it was, that I was romanticizing a version of him that just did not exist. Didn't exist. I made it up in my head because of that honeymoon and reconciliation phase, that it felt so good that I thought that he was good to me when it couldn't be further from the truth. And I just want you to, you have hope. Focus on you and heal. Date you again. Rediscover yourself again. Do things that will force your mind to be peaceful. Take your mind out of the situation. I know that sounds tricky, but it's doable, and you are going to do it. You are going to get through this. You are going to heal from this. Do not ever let your life be in the hands of another person, especially a person who is manipulating you and hurting you. Never do that. You have so much more power than you think. I know some days it's hard, right? One day you're like, oh, F him, I'm done, I'm over it. And then tomorrow you're like, oh, I miss him. But no, you don't miss him. You miss the feeling that you got after making up from when he would fuck up and hurt you. That's what you miss. You don't miss him. You don't miss the relationship, because let's be honest, you probably know yourself, he did not serve you. What you miss is that feeling of making up and getting into the honeymoon stage, because that's the only good part that you can get out of it. I know that it hurts, and I know that it sucks, and I know that it's like a wake-up call that you don't want to answer, But you have to answer, because if not now, when? If not now, when? When you're 40, 30, 2 kids in, and you're so fed up, and now you have children to worry about, or you're just so far into your life that you can't even let others in. You have to think about it that way. There is no one will pull you out of that hole except for yourself. He won't take you out of that hole. He will dig you down deep further. You have to do it for yourself, because you love yourself. Ask yourself that. Okay? Like, don't even ask yourself. Tell yourself, like, I love me. This is for me. This is for the best of me. And because I love me. You have to let it be that. Don't ever, 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 ever let someone else determine your happiness, because it's not up to anybody else but you. You determine your happiness. You determine your self-worth, your self-being. Your perception in life is because of how you feel about yourself. So do not ever let yourself think that you deserve utter shit, because you don't. You deserve so much more in life, and it took me so long to finally see that for myself. And I can tell you now, time healed it. Don't rush it. You can't be like, well, I remember that whole rule of like the half of your relationship rule. Do not ever try to measure your healing stage after a breakup. Don't try to measure it, because then it's more painful. Let me tell you, you were going to wait every day that, am I over him? Am I over him? All right. No. It comes with time and learning. And you can't learn. It's like studying for a test. You're not going to know everything you're testing in a day, in a week, you know? I mean, maybe. But I just want you to know that you're not alone in this. A lot of people go through this. And I remember myself, I would be like, no one understands what I'm going through, because you're so like, this is so foreign to you. And you feel like no one can understand you, that you think that you're the only person that's gone through this. What also helped me feel better, even with my kids, like, other people go through this. Other people have made it out from this. And I can tell you, I made it out from it, and I did not do it finding another partner, finding another boyfriend, like replacing him. I did it finding myself, my self-worth, my self-peace. It's so rewarding that I know that when I take that next step into loving someone again, I know what's real, what's not. I can call the bullshit, but that was only because I spent time alone, time healing, and I learned from the situation. Unfortunately, I can't turn back time. I can't control what happens, you know, like, I can only control what I can control, which is how I look at life, how I look at the mistakes that I've made, and the situation and the people that have entered my life and left. I remember my therapist told me that some people that come into your life are either, they come in your life for a reason, a season, or a lesson. And I feel like he was all three. And sometimes when someone is in your life for that long, you think they're going to be in it for the long run. I know you have your heart set on this, but believe me, you have the power to believe that you deserve better. You have so much power in your own future and your own calling. Open up yourself to allow that to happen versus standing by and accepting this half-ass abusive bullshit. Because I can tell you now, he will never change, and you will never be happy if you don't do this for yourself. I can talk on and on about this, but that's kind of like the gist of what I wanted to speak about. If you ever feel the need to reach out to somebody, I will also leave a lot of resources down in the description box. And that way, if you guys want to utilize it, if you are in danger, please seek help. If you feel like you need to talk to somebody, anybody, our Instagram is Nobody's Left Behind, and you can DM us. Everything is completely anonymous. If you feel like you need to talk to someone that is not someone that you know, I'm here. Please seek help and do this for yourself.